General Physics 1, Quarter 2, Module 6, Temperature and Heat. Lesson 1, Temperature and Zeroth Law of Thermodynamics. What is temperature and zeroth law of thermodynamics? The zeroth law of thermodynamics states that there is an energy form called heat, which has a tendency to spread through a system, a variable called temperature that measures this tendency. Heat flows from the regions of high temperature to the regions of low temperature only. Zeroth law of thermodynamics. The zeroth law of thermodynamics states that if two bodies are each in thermal equilibrium with some third body, then they are also in equilibrium with each other. Temperature scales. Scale of temperature is methodology of calibrating the physical quantity temperature in methodology. Empirical scales measure temperature in relation to convenient and stable parameters, such as the freezing and boiling point of water. Types of temperature scale. Celsius temperature scale. Celsius, also called centigrade, scale based on 0 degrees for the freezing point of water and 100 degrees for the boiling point of water. Invented in 1742 by the Swedish astronomer Anders Celsius. It is sometimes called the centigrade scale because of the 100-degree interval between the defined points. Fahrenheit scale. Fahrenheit temperature scale. Scale based on 32 degrees for the freezing point of water and 212 degrees for the boiling point of water. The interval between the two being divided into 180 equal parts. Kelvin scale. Kelvin temperature scale. A temperature scale having an absolute zero below which temperatures do not exist. Absolute zero, or 0 degrees K, is a temperature at which molecular energy is a minimum, and it corresponds to a temperature of negative 273.15 degrees on the Celsius temperature scale. Lesson 2, Thermal Expansion. What is thermal expansion? Thermal expansion is the tendency of matter to change its shape, area, volume, and density in response to a change in temperature, usually not including phase transitions. Temperature is a monotonic function of the average molecular kinetic energy of a substance. Thermal expansion. Thermal expansion, the general increase in the volume of a material as its temperature is increased. If it is not isometric, there may be different expansion coefficients for different crystallographic directions, and the crystal will change shape as the temperature changes. Types of thermal expansion. Linear expansion. Linear expansion means change in one dimension, as opposed to change in volume. To a first approximation, the change in length measurements of an object due to thermal expansion is related to temperature change by a coefficient of linear thermal expansion, or CLTE. Volume expansion. Volume expansion is defined as the increase in the volume of the solid on heating. Lesson 3, Heat and Heat Capacity. What is heat and heat capacity? Heat, energy that is transferred from one body to another as the result of a difference in temperature. Heat capacity, ratio of heat absorbed by a material to the temperature change. It is usually expressed as calories per degree in terms of the actual amount of material being considered, most commonly a mole, the molecular weight in grams. Heat capacity and specific heat. Heat capacity. Heat capacity is the measurable physical quantity that characterizes the amount of heat required to change a substance's temperature by a given amount. It is measured in joules per Kelvin and given by the heat capacity is an extensive property scaling with the size of the system. Specific heat. Specific heat. The quantity of heat required to raise the temperature of 1 gram of a substance by 1 Celsius degree. The units of specific heat are usually calories or joules per gram per Celsius degree. For example, the specific heat of water is 1 calorie per gram per Celsius degree.